Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you for joining us here on this Sunday afternoon on Gulfstream Today. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Acacia Courtney, and we had a big day on tap yesterday. Of course, it was a big day pretty much countrywide, especially in Florida. Big races at Tampa and big races here as well, but tremendous handle yesterday here at Gulfstream and a tremendous card too.
It really was. We had 12 races yesterday, 3 graded stakes. Of course, we did have some really exceptional performances. Almanar in the Gulfstream Park turf, Dickinson in the Swanee River. But I think the day really did go to Sharp Azteca in the Hardacre Mile. We'll go back and show that stretch run. Gabby, it was really impressive.
Very impressive. And Jorge Navarro kind of saying in the beginning of the race that he wanted to have a target for Sharp Azteca, that he doesn't necessarily, he kind of loses focus if he's on the front end by himself. Well, didn't look like he lost focus here as he was widening the margin coming down the stretch. And Jorge Navarro also saying he's going to be pointing to the $1 Million Godolphin Mile. Of course, that is on March 25th, and then potentially running him in the Met Mile. Of course, Jorge Navarro taking XY Jet to Dubai last year in the Golden Shaheen and having a lot of success. So it looks like he's got a pretty nice runner on his hands.
He does, and speaking to Jorge before the race, and he was saying just what you said, he wanted somebody to press the horse. He was nervous about him being alone on the front end. He was actually pressed a little bit by Blofeld, but just hearing him talk about how this horse has traveled everywhere. He's been successful at Laurel, at Santa Anita, here at Gulfstream. He's really been able to rack up those frequent flyer miles and be successful wherever it is that he goes, wherever he travels. So seems like a logical next step to be traveling now overseas to try Dubai out. But I do think his running style will fit very well over there. It'll be exciting to see him.
Absolutely. Best of luck to them as they point towards that $1 million race in Dubai. But we've got a great card today, and we'll take a look at our featured wagers this afternoon. We have 12 races on tap with a noon post, and we do start it off in race 1. That rolling super high 5, that's a $1 bet, and that carryover is $3,800 there in today's opener. The first race, of course, always starts the 50-cent early pick 5 too. Races 1 through 5 as we move towards the 5th race on the card. That does start the ever popular middle pick 4 on this 12 race program. And the 7th race starts the 20-cent Rainbow 6. We have a carryover over $90,000 in that sequence. And race 8 also kicks off that final pick 5 of the day. That is a 50-cent based wager. Acacia will have tickets for both the early and late pick 5. Today we are fast and firm on the turf with that noon post, and a great card, and it gets better as the day progresses, Acacia. But as always, we start with the opener and your early pick 5.
Okay, well, no singles today in the early pick 5 for me. I got the single home yesterday as well as the early pick 5, so hopefully we can do it again today, but I wasn't able to find a single here. So using 3 deep to start it off, 2 horses in the next race, 2 in the 3rd, which I really would have liked to use a lot more horses in that 3rd race. I think it's wide open, a very tough race in there, that maiden claiming. And then 3 in the 4th, of course, Malagasy, the heavy morning line favorite, but I'm backing myself up with a couple others. And then using 3 deep in the 5th, $54.
I like it, $54 to start it off. And we get to today's opener. That's 5 furlongs on the turf for this maiden $40,000 event. And early money goes to the 5 Stoneheart. We'll go back to this Antonio Sano runner and go back to his last performance where he was just beaten a nose.
And he hopped at the start a little bit coming out of the gate, and he was kind of rank early, which I think is important to note in here. He was actually dropping a little bit in class. He was beaten a nose, so he is technically taking a bit of a step up in here. He kind of settled along the rail, but he had no place to go in the stretch, and John Velasquez was aboard that day. He'll stay aboard. He makes the decision to go up the rail, and this was a gutsy move. He kind of aggressively switches him over to the rail, seeing an opening, and he manages to get through. Unfortunately, the winner, No Phone Joe, closing on the outside and did get the best of him that day. So as I said, he is technically taking a step up in class again to this $35,000 maiden level where he has been beaten before, but I thought off of that race, it really looked like he was showing showing some good tenacity in there. And his race at this level 2 back, he had to be very wide too. So that's why I did give him another chance today.
Well, the reason why I didn't like him here today is because I remember that race, handicapping the race, I didn't like anybody in the field, so that's why I landed on a first-time starter and No Phone Joe, just thinking that it kind of came up a bit easier. And now he's going to have to step up a little bit in company. Yes, he's faced this level of competition before, and yes, he's a turf sprinter, and yes, he did get into a little bit of trouble. But I just thought there were more intriguing options, one of them being the one Tempter to the inside for Christophe Clement coming back to the turf, but getting a firm going today. When he first started, it was on a turf listed as good, and that was against Maiden Special Weight Company. I wanted to show a stat here for Christophe Clement with his horses going from the dirt to the turf at sprint distances at the maiden claiming level. Small sample size, but he's successful, very successful at it. 4 for 7, a win percent, 57%. And we do see 71% in the money and a $6.22 ROI. So this horse is definitely bred to like the turf. He's by Speightstown. He's got Malibu Moon on the bottom side. So with some experience in the dropping class, and he does have speed. He showed a lot of speed last time out with that rail post position. I could see him being sneaky good. I think Christophe did this earlier in the week successfully, I think with a filly though.
And you always have to watch Christophe Clement on the turf too. And I agree, I liked this horse for all of the reasons that you mentioned, and that's a good stat to show because sometimes even with those small sample sizes, seeing all of that success is just perhaps what this horse needs to take the next step forward. Also debuted at the 7 furlongs on a good turf at Belmont, which is a tough asking for a first-time starter. So perhaps this 5 furlong sprint now with a couple of dirt races under his belt just might be what the doctor ordered. But the number 7 Fact Check was one that was intriguing too, dropping in class for Todd Pletcher and trying the turf for the first time. By yes, it's true, the dam was a 4-time turf winner, and all 4 races so far have been against Special Weight Company and actually has had a couple of good races. So we'll see if that surface switch helps this one take the next step.
And we'll show that stat for trainer Todd Pletcher with his first-time turf horses at the sprint distance at the maiden claiming level. 36% positive ROI, $3.59. But it is kind of feast or famine. They either win or they don't finish well at all. As you can see, the in the money percentage stays the same at 36%. But I liked the turf pedigree. I liked the fact that this horse drops in class. And I just wrote myself a note here last time that I saw him, which was two starts back on the 10th of December, just thinking he kind of looks like a horse that might like the turf. So I'm giving him a shot from those points alone as we move towards the second race on the card, an open 6250 claiming event, 6 furlongs there onto the main track. And looking at this race, I initially really wanted to go to the 5 Harry He for Gilberto Zerpa. I think this is the horse to beat.
It is, and he was actually entered a couple of days ago and scratched out of the race, but he's got quite a bit of speed that he showed last time first off the claim for Gilberto Zerpa. Took a big step forward too, going from a 71 Beyer speed figure to an 80 when he also really stepped up in class first off the claim too, and he finished a good third with Josie Gomez in the saddle, who is very good riding on the front end. He's now dropping back down to this 6250 level, so it is kind of a question. He actually ran okay last time, stepping up to starter starter optional claiming company, and now drops back down to the open 6250, but he has had success before. He's got some speed, and there does perhaps look to be the number 4 Bold Summit next to him. Will probably be forwardly placed, but I don't know if anyone will be quite as fast as him.
Well, that's the thing, is that he's never really shown that much speed before that he did first off of the claim. So I think that's actually an encouraging thing. If he does show equivalent speed today, we could see him maybe wire the field, but sometimes it doesn't happen so easily. So the 3 Shere Khan I thought was a viable option, and I think that you'll get a decent value on this horse. He should be sitting right in the catbird seat. I like the fact that Paco Lopez is aboard. And this horse is an old class horse. He's a 9-time winner, 7-time winner at the distance. I think he could just really sit the trip.
This is his 37th career start, and as you said, he's definitely done well at this distance. He had a good track last time going the 7/8. I like the cut back to 6 furlongs today.
Okay, we'll move on to the third of this maiden 12,500 race. 6 furlongs onto the main track and scratch the number 5 member in here, and we go towards the inside with the number 1, Another Mouth to Feed.
This was a tough race to handicap in here, and I landed on Another Mouth to Feed, certainly not with a great deal of confidence, I will say that, at this maiden 12.5 level. But this horse found a sloppy track last time. She actually ran a distant fourth, but it was a runaway winner in Run to Glory, and she did manage to get fourth there. She didn't like the turf 2 starts back, but if you go back to her race on a fast main track in her first time for this barn, it was going 5.5 furlongs, and she actually ran an okay third. So that's kind of the race that I'm going off of in here, and apprentice Carlos Hernandez is aboard again.
And I wonder what they're going to do from the rail post, because it looks like there might be a couple of faster horses just to her outside, so maybe she could sit that stalking trip today. We see the number 2, Miss BBI, is another horse that you could potentially use in here. Has a lot of turf starts, but the dirt starts aren't so bad. And then, of course, we have kind of Spunzig in here, who should be bet 5-2 on the morning line, and Poda as the speed. So there is a lot going on in this race, and I too had kind of a tough time.
And I kind of gave a little bit more of an edge to Poda because I do think that she'll be the main speed in here. I just couldn't really take Spunzig and 0 for 23 today. Just might be the day. Maybe it's lucky number 24 in here, but as you said, she probably will be bet. So I went to the 4-year-old filly Poda in second in here.
Okay, let's get to the 4th race, an allowance optional claimer, 6.5 furlongs onto the main track, and kind of a smaller field, but a potent field, and we have a 2-5 warning line favorite in the number 3, Malagasy, who was ultra impressive last time out.
Ultra impressive, and you and I were kind of talking about this. You kind of did wonder where that race came from Malagasy. She was a first-time starter, he was a first-time starter debuting. It was a track that was listed as sloppy that day, and he was certainly flattered by the fact that the 3rd place finisher, Lenstar, came back to win in his next start with an 85 Beyer speed figure. He's by Shackelford, did actually have a couple of siblings that won on sloppy tracks, so perhaps he did like that. But for a Todd Pletcher first-time starter to win by 15 lengths, he wasn't really bet that much at the windows, and I just wasn't sure if we're going to see that same kind of explosive performance today.
The good thing about him today is it looks like since that win, he still continued to even improve in his work tab there at Palm Beach Downs. So he might have been a horse that just kind of turned things around, because his works were okay leading into his first race, but they didn't really stand out. And I think that's why he went off kind of cold in his first start. But definitely like the slop. We'll see if he can produce the same type of performance on a fast main track. I didn't really like him, just thinking, or I do like him, but I thought that he was a little bit vulnerable considering the amount of pace in here and the fact that he was left to his own devices on the front end last time out. There's Alex again in here, storming my way, weight. There's a tremendous amount of speed in here. One of them being the 5, Alex again, who you did land on for John Service.
I did, and this one actually, as it seems like the break is kind of the trouble for this one. In his 2 starts so far, I was kind of just trying to look for an alternative, and I did look at the number 1, Tale of Silence, for quite a bit, who's actually tried Graded Stakes Company before, but I did land on Alex again, who the top 2 in that race were very game last time out. Now he's coming off a bit of a freshening, about 4 months since that last race at Parks for trainer John Service, and I didn't show this stat, but for what it's worth, after a 61 to 180 day layoff in sprints with horses that broke their maiden last time out, he wins 33% of the time, and it's 67% in the money with a positive ROI. We know that John Service does great work. This one's a beautifully bred horse, and it really did seem to take a step forward in his second start, so I'm hoping he can continue to improve and maybe get out a little bit sharper.
He did. He took a huge step forward in his second start. I just thought maybe it was a kind of an easy race for the level, but I do think that an encouraging part of that race was that he was facing 10 other horses in there. So sometimes it's kind of not what you beat, but it's the size of the field too. So he could definitely take a step forward, making his 3-year-old debut. But the 1, Tale of Silence, this horse is sneaky good, and he just might be able to put it all together. I think the race sets up with him with the amount of speed in here. I like the 6.5 furlongs, so the slight cut back in distance. It was a tough race last time out. We saw Beasley come back and run a huge second behind Battalion Runner, trained by Todd Pletcher, and this horse has the pedigree to be a good one. He's a full brother to Tail of a Cotty, so there's a lot going on here, and at 6-1, I'll take my chances.
And definitely worth it for the price. And as you mentioned, if there is a hot pace, it does look like he's going to be one that's coming from behind. A horse that probably will take money off of his impressive maiden win when finally getting to a fast track is the number 2 Weight. I just don't know if I trust him yet, now making his first start for Stanley Gold.
I'm going to wait and see. As we get to the 5th race, it does start the 50-cent middle pick 4, 6 furlongs onto the main track for this maiden special weight. And I came up with a ticket here because this particular wager has been really growing in popularity here. So I wanted to show you the sequence. And I couldn't find a single, but still an affordable ticket. Once again, this is a 50-cent based wager. So using 3 horses in the 5th, with 3 horses in the 6th, with 3 horses in the 7th, and just using 2 horses in the 8th, $27. And I really like this race, and as we were kind of saying, the races just kind of progress in terms of competition and just quality of the fields as we continue on the card. The 4 Ascertain is one of them, trained by Bill Mott, making his 2nd start.
It is, and I thought that she actually showed a little bit of promise in her debut, which was why I did put her on top in here. And this is a fun race to start off the sequence for that middle pick 4 because it's a small field, but I think it's a pretty quality field, as you were saying. So this one, Daughter of Flame by a Forestry mare. The dam was a stakes winner as well. And this one, she kind of was just solid in the middle there. She didn't really have any sort of late kick or kind of just a solid performance. But I do think it was a good setup for her. She's been working steadily leading up to that race. That was on January 14th. So she does come back just about a month later, so pretty quickly. So 2nd-time starter for Bill Mott, Jose Lascano in the saddle.
And Bill Mott, 2nd-time starter, always the way to go. And this filly is owned by Judd Mott. The thing that I didn't like about her first race was that she was really strongly urged to keep up with kind of the rest of the pace early, and she never really looked comfortable as the race progressed. And maybe we'll see that race to turn out to be pretty productive, but I did think, I don't know if it was a little bit of greenness or what it was, but it looked like the rider was having a tough time to keep her kind of in the bulk of the race. So the one Tasteful was where I did land towards the inside. The mare, she won her first 2 races at a mile and even 9 furlongs. This is the mare's first foal, but a really nice pedigree by, of course, Street Cry. And inside post position will have to work out. In this filly, she has been training for quite some time. We can see her actually starting her training at Green Tree up at Saratoga on the synthetic and making her way down here.
Her last couple of works, though, have been very sharp. 5 furlongs in 1 minute and 2, and then 4 furlongs in 48 and 3 prior to that at Palmetto. So it looks like she's really been sharpened up in her last couple. You don't normally, first-time starters for Kieran McLaughlin isn't perhaps one of his most popular betting angles, but she does get Lasix for her debut. And Kieran McLaughlin's been having an excellent meet here at Gulfstream. So I think definitely one to watch. Corey Lannery's been another one that's been having a great meet, too.
He's been riding so well, as well as Luis Saez, too. Those are kind of 2 jockeys who've been really standing out in this riding colony. But the 6, she plays the field for Brian Lynch. I think we wanted to go back and show the spotlight of her debut performance.
We do, and she was a little green at the break in here. She showed some speed. There she is, the number 3, and she kind of got cut off in the stretch. And I think off of this performance and plus the addition of Lasix today, she will be taking some money in here. Now, you see, again, she is kind of green. She just wouldn't switch leads. But then she did, as I said, get cut off by the number 5, who was the winner. I don't think she would have come back to win that race, as perhaps there were others that were moving just stronger. But she did kind of finish up nicely. She finished 3rd. I thought it was a solid performance at 7 furlongs.
And she looked great in the paddock first time out, and I think she can only build upon that 7 furlong race. We see for first-time starters on the dirt here at Gulfstream, sometimes 7 furlongs, you just need a really solid bottom underneath of you in order to win. But we did have a stat here for trainer Brian Lynch with horses, and I thought that she might be bet off of that performance. With horses making their 2nd start on the dirt against Maiden Special Weight Company, it's actually a surprisingly low stat, 10% and a negative ROI. Now, she could definitely move forward, but I wanted to kind of mention this because this is the start of the pick 4. And I don't think you should put all your eggs in one basket with this particular horse. But it is a very small but potent field there for the 5th race as we take a look at the 6th on the card, a maiden $20,000 event, a mile and a 16th on the turf. Acacia, how'd you see this race?
Well, I went to the outside with the number 9 Padre for trainer Michael Matz, who's kind of making a lateral move, if you will, slight class drop to the 20,000, stretching out in distance to the mile and a 16th. But I think most importantly, adding the blinkers on in here. And I think that this one's a pretty good price on the morning line as well. And I really like to see Luis Saez climbing aboard. Yes, 10-1 on the morning line. So I like that price if you get anything like that. And I had a couple of questions about some of the horses that were bound to take money, like Slow Hand and Prize Fight. So I did land on this one, thinking that with a couple of those changes, might be able to take the next step forward.
And I agree with you with kind of having some reservations with horses that might get bet. The 3 Slow Hand is one of them for Wesley Ward. The winner of that race, Francisco Flyer, did come back to take an open $25,000 race, getting a big buyer speed figure 74. So I think that was good. Prize Fight, on the other hand, Mike Maker. I didn't show this stat, but trainer switches from maiden special weight to maiden claimer. So when he gets horses and immediately drops them in class, he's only 1 for 11. So he doesn't do it that frequently. And obviously it's not a successful move, but this horse did get into a lot of trouble in his first start.
Yes, checked repeatedly at the start, or checked repeatedly on the first turn is the comment, and I think that's an understatement. He really did get in a lot of trouble, but he's coming off a little bit of a freshening, and as we said, dropping immediately, and it's a big drop from special weight to the $20,000 level, so I kind of took a little bit of a wait and see. I used him in second, as did you, but I'm interested to hear about Zap 2 at your top selection.
Well, the horse actually has a nice pedigree for the turf. He is by Go Zapper. He's out of a Lemon Drop Kid mare, Lemon Appeal. And last time out, this horse did drop in class. Got a good price, first time Lasix, all those things. But today gets in with a light weight. And actually, this horse had a sneaky bad trip. Going into the first turn, he had no room to kind of run. Then he was bumped and squeezed out of position, lost a little ground. And yes, he flattened a bit in the final half of the race. But I think he expended so much energy in the first half of the race. So I think that he can definitely move forward here. He was a lovely pedigree, good price at 8-1. So I'll take my chances with a little bit of a price, as you did with the number 9 Padre. That is races 1 through 6 on this 12 race program. The pick 6 starts off in the 7th race. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about those sequences.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Gabby Gaudette joined by Acacia Courtney, and race 7 does start the 20-cent Rainbow 6, a carryover over $90,000 in the sequence today. So we'll show you my ticket, and I kept it pretty affordable, but this is kind of a gutsy single in the second leg of the sequence. But I did use 3 horses to start things off with the 1, 9, and the 10. We'll get to that maiden claimer in just a second. As we proceed along, going to be singling the 8 Forgive in the 8th race. The horse is actually 8-1 on the morning line, but I really like his chances here today. So we'll get to that in a moment. And 3 by 3 by 3 by 3, $48.60. I'm hoping I can have the same luck as Ron Nicoletti does with his odd singles.
I was just about to say you went to the Ron Nicoletti school of singling in the pick 6, but I like it, keeping it affordable. And sometimes if you have a good feeling about a horse, just taking a bit of a bold move and singling can help you use a few other horses in some of those other other legs.
Well, let's surely hope so. As we started off here with the 7th, a maiden $50,000 event, 6 furlongs on the main track. And looking at the field, I thought that there was a lot going on in here. We have the 10 taken to church that could get bet with the blinkers on for Eric Gio, but we both land on a nicely priced horse, 12-1 on the morning line, the one Tarpey's Zip.
And this one for Dale Romans, actually debuting on the way outside, post 10 of 10 at Gulfstream that day. Just didn't really show anything. It was 5 furlongs on the turf and maiden special weight. So there's a lot going on with this horse, dropping, surface switch, but beautifully bred by City Zip. The dam was a stakes winner and graded stakes place as well. And we were just talking about Corey Lannery riding well and Dale Romans as well. They've been a pretty potent team.
Yeah, the pedigree is too good to give up on this horse just yet. He is by City Zip, as you said, and you're mentioning the accomplishments of the mare too, but that was actually sprinting on the dirt. So I think on the bottom side, the pedigree suggests more dirt. And we'll show a stat here for trainer Dale Romans going from turf to dirt and maiden special weight to maiden claimer, so that slight drop in class. He's 33%, a positive ROI of $3.06, and 44% in the money. So sometimes you just have to notice those types of stats, like them, and do what you will with them. We do have some other horses in here that we should talk about, and one of them being the number 10 taken to church, who should get some play in here. Blinkers do go on, and I just thought that it wasn't really the strongest field for this first-time starter last time out.
And that's kind of why I took a bit of a wait-and-see approach. Certainly now, second-time starter, Emisel Jaramillo climbing aboard, as you mentioned. The blinkers do go on. A nicely bred one by Bodemeister out of a multiple stakes-placed mare. I had a bit of interest in a couple others, though. We both did use the one right next door, the number 9, Yes Darlin, who's dropping from state-bred maiden special weight to this maiden 50. It might be a bit more of a lateral move, though, considering the competition that he's been facing for Nicholas Gonzalez. Another beautifully bred one. I think perhaps just a drop in class seems to be needed, but he's been working very well, too, and gets a cut back in distance.
I think this horse does have some question marks, which I think is a good thing, because we see the horse probably didn't like the added distance of the mile last time out. He didn't get off to a great start when he first started. It was an okay performance because he was against the track that day, and it was on a sloppy sealed track, so maybe the stars will align as everything kind of comes together here today in his third career start. But you also like the 6 Max James a bit for Ian Wilkes, taking a drop in class.
A drop in class does seem to be needed, and we keep talking about pedigrees because there are some very nice ones in here. This one by Union Rags, the dam is by Awesome Again, Pink Champagne. She was a graded stakes winner too, and he debuted at 7 furlongs at Keeneland, and just kind of what you were mentioning earlier, sometimes a first-time starter at 7 furlongs is a tough asking, so a slight tick back in distance to the 6 furlongs, and Ian Wilkes, and we keep saying it, his barn has been going well, and it looks like he's kind of on the verge of a breakthrough, but this one broke slow too, so giving a second chance in here.
All right, let's turn the page to the next race here. Race 8 kicks off the final pick 5 of the day occasion. As usual, you came up with a late pick 5 ticket.
I did. We'll give you a look at my ticket, and I believe that this 8th race was a race that all 3 of us were all over the place. And
you didn't even use my single.
I did not use your single. It was just kind of one of those days, but using 3 deep here to kick things off, 2 deep in the next race in the 9th. I'm using just 2 in the 10th. I really do like Wessex for Bill Mott in there, and backing myself up with Sweet Ella for Todd Pletcher. Then 4 deep in the 11th race, that's going to be my spread race, the maiden claiming, and 2 deep in the last for $48, trying to keep it affordable. But just as I was saying, it looked like we were kind of all over the place today, so I guess we'll see how things play out in these later races.
I just don't know what's so bad with Forgive. We'll get to him in a second, but we'll start with the 7 end play here and go back to his last performance. That was going 7.5 furlongs on the turf for Tom Bush.
Yes, and we'll show this race. It was, I think the cut back in distance is really going to be key here. End play was the speed that day, and that is why I do like him today. Lex Vegas has some speed as well, so perhaps that's going to be a tough, as it looks like Zoot Suit also will be forwardly placed, but I really think the 5 furlongs will suit him much better than the 7.5. You see he's out in the front there. He does kind of tire, but he does hold on gamely for third. Now, they added the blinkers last time as well, and I don't know if that was perhaps to help him keep a little bit more focus in the stretch, to help him finish up strongly. And he had been running up in New York in pretty strong races, actually found a yielding turf course 2 starts back. So I think that was perhaps a good setup for him, and as I said, I like him much better at the 5 furlongs.
And I got to disagree with that, because I do think that this horse is better going 2 turns. And Tom Bush even said that prior to his last race, because I interviewed him, and he was like, actually, I think he can harness his speed a little bit better going 2 turns. He can kind of make the lead, relax, and I saw that with him. I thought it was a fantastic performance last time out, so that's why I kind of went against him today, thinking that he's actually a bit better going 2 turns. But he does have speed. He's won at shorter distances, say 5.5 furlongs and 6, so and he does have the class. He's kind of the class of the field. But Forgive, he just really looks like a turf sprinter. And there was no beating Canadian Flyer last time out. That horse for Belmont has a lot of back class, and there was no catching him once he kind of shot out of the gate like that. It was a good race for the level. He beat Difference Maker, who came back to win off of the layoff here against Maiden Special Weight Company. And I just think that he's kind of an up-and-comer. He's got tactical speed, a good outside post position. I know he's not as accomplished maybe as the other horses, but other horses in here have been kind of facing starter allowance company, even open $16,000 claimers as you get with the 1 Starship Thor. So I think he's got some class to him, and a good race last time out.
Maybe that was a good setup for him. I kind of, again, took a wait and see. And 2 starts back, he broke his maiden impressively when he did come over here to Gulfstream. And as you said, he was flattered by Difference Maker coming back to win. And his race last time was solid, as you mentioned. There was no catching Canadian Flyer. So maybe today's the day that he does take a step forward, and perhaps he fits Justin here. I did have some interest in Zoot Suit, who does come out of that same race, and I think that was actually a good setup for him. But I think he's got some tactical ability as well. He was kind of chasing the pace last time, and as I was mentioning, it looks like there's going to be a couple other horses that are going to be forwardly placed in here, particularly End Play being the main speed. So maybe this is one that's going to stick a nice stalking trip, and if there is pace, I did think that Grand Sky could be closing from far off of it.
Exactly, Grand Sky, and now cutting back in distance. I do like this distance a little bit better than the 7.5 furlongs, and this will be his 3rd start off the layoff. Even Lex Vegas getting to the turf for the first time. The mare did produce a turf winner, but Brian Lynch going from dirt to turf with his sprinters, only 3 for 17. So this is a lot going on, and we'll get more into it later this afternoon as we need to move along, getting to the 9th race on the card to kick off the final pick 4 of the day. 7.5 furlongs there onto the turf course. We have a couple of scratches in here, and another race that I'm going to give Debbie's Tude one more shot here, and I just hope that she's used early, because she's a better horse when she makes the lead.
She definitely is. She did not look comfortable last time, and she didn't finish up well last time at all. That was also first off the claim, a bit of a stretch out in distance, and I do think that she's definitely perhaps more effective at a mile, 7.5 furlongs, which is what she's going to get today, and she has to be on the front end. That's her main play. And off of that last race, maybe you will get a little bit of a better price on her, because she didn't finish up well at all last time.
And the 7 Starship Jubilee was where you land. And I like this filly as well here for Jorge Navarro, coming off a big day yesterday with Sharp Azteca. We'll show a stat here for Jorge Navarro. First off the claim on the turf here at Gulfstream, 6 for 15, 40% positive ROI over $2. And I wanted to show this stat because I know a lot of people say that his claims, they're primarily successful on the dirt, and I always kind of had that perception too, but not the case. He's winning at 40% with this move.
And this filly showed last time that she could go the 2 turns and be successful, notching that non-winners of 3, and now she was claimed, and she'll face this open company. I actually admittedly scratched into this horse. I did like the number 5 Tybalt's Queen on top first, who had been successful at this level before, so it is a bit of a step up for Starship Jubilee, but she was facing tougher going the 1 turn on the turf before.
And it was kind of the similar case yesterday in yesterday's finale. You're looking at all these horses and trying to, figure out the pace scenario, who's going to do what. And sometimes it just boils down to a good post. And the one Wild About Jazz could be one towards the inside. It was a rail post position horse in yesterday's closing race, going 7.5 furlong. So I thought that horse could be a sneaky horse to use in terms of those multi-race sequences. As we get to the 10th race on the card here, we're going a mile and a 16th on the turf for this allowance race, and we'll start towards the outside with the number 8 Wessex and go back to Hi Ho Pimlico in the Hilltop.
And this was an interesting race. They're actually the pace setter. The jock lost his iron, so you can see that horse in the middle, and he's actually backing up kind of into the rest of the field. So that did make it kind of difficult for everybody else that was closing. On top of trying to run the race, you're looking out for everybody else. So the number 14 Wessex is out in the front there. The winner closing on the way outside, Gone Away, just absolutely rolling. But I thought it was a very big performance to be beaten just by a neck for Wessex. He came back trying the grade 3 Regret after that and finished a pretty solid 4th. Now, he hasn't been seen in about 8 months, and last time out he was kind of squeezed out of position early too in the Regret, so I do think you can give him a little bit of a pass for that, but he definitely has quite a bit of class in this field, and I like him off the layout for Bill Mott.
Tactical speed too, and we'll show a stat here for trainer Bill Mott with these types of layoffs. This 4-year-old filly, she's got some back class here, obviously. 180 plus day layoffs on the turf, going a distance of ground. 19%, almost half of the time finishing in the money, and a positive ROI over $2 there, 203. So all good things. I do think that she is the class of the field, kind of the up-and-comer, interested to see her make her 4-year-old debut. But there are some other things kind of going on towards the inside, including the 6 Sweet Ella. My concern with her, and even though she's a filly that's kind of in good form right now, is she good enough? You see horses like Wessex, who was competitive against Graded Stakes Company.
And that was why I couldn't put Sweet Ella on top in here. Of course, she's a $275,000 purchase by Scat Daddy, and she earned an 83 Beyer speed figure last time for her win in Starter Allowance Company, but that's just it. She's been running against Starter Allowance Company, and now it is, I think, a step up to this other than company in here and the horses that she's going to be facing. There are some very classy fillies in here, so it is going to be a big asking for her, but as you said, she's been in very good form lately, and I think off of that win last time, where she did win by open length, she won by 2.5 lengths with Luis Saez. She'll stretch out a little bit again to the mile and a 16th, where she has had 2 wins at this distance prior, so that's why I decided to use her in the exacta, but she does have to prove herself.
And I think, obviously, Lanita is one that she makes sense here. She got some trouble last time out. She's got class. But the 3 Sunday Sonnet was one that really I like for exotics the more I look at her, because this will be her 2nd start off of the layoff for Kelly Breen. She was last seen in December, but prior to that, we hadn't seen her since April. And this mare, she was really never able to settle in the backstretch. I thought she expended a lot of early energy. She had a troubled trip too, so she can improve upon that performance and maybe turn the tables on Lanita and something else. Of course, Lobelia, a filly that has been in very good form. So Sunday Sonnet, I like at a bit of a price in there too. As we get to the 11th race, the maiden $60,000 race, 6 furlongs onto the main track, and I believe we have a spotlight replay of both There Goes Bella and Miss Helen coming out of the same race last time out.
We do, and There Goes Bella probably promises to take quite a bit of money in here. Now, she did show some speed last time, and I ended up picking Miss Helen today, a 2nd-time starter for Michael Tomlinson, and you see the 5 Miss Helen is all over the place. She was incredibly green last time, going away from the rail towards the rail, whereas There Goes Bella definitely looked a bit more professional, and I think There Goes Bella will take money because she actually was stepping up in class in this race, and she performed better than expected, actually, with the addition addition of blinkers, or better than I expected anyway. But she actually kind of regressed from a buyer speed figure point. She went from earning a 55 against maiden $35,000 company to earning a 45 last time in maiden $50,000 company. She's got some speed for sure, but I did go with the second time starter, and for what it's worth, Michael Tomlinson, second time starters in maiden claiming is 16% win and an ROI of 298. So I thought this was kind of a wide open finale, so I went with a little bit of a guess.
I could see there being more potential for a horse like Miss Helen because of how she was green. I was surprised to see her not have any kind of equipment change in terms of maybe blinkers on because she was so green first time out. But it looked like Luis Saez kind of tried to make her switch her leads, and then she overreacted to it, and she was all over the track. So if she can improve in terms of her maturity, I think that could put her in a good spot today. There goes Bella, though. I don't really like her in here. I know she's kind of staying at the same level, but she was exposed against lesser company. She does have speed. I just didn't see much follow through in her performance last time out. So if she makes the lead and she doesn't have to pass any other horse, I think that could be the best case scenario. But the 9, Katrina's Way, I like the fact that Javier Castellano kind of stays faithful to this filly today. She does make her second start off of that layoff, and I try to find a stat for the connections with second start off the layoff on the dirt. They've started, I think, 4 horses, so I'm not going to show a stat like that. But this horse, she actually broke from the rail last time out, and immediately after the break, there were 2 horses just to her outside pressing her early, and it just looked like a really uncomfortable position. Then she had to take back, then she had to make another move, and I thought it was a lot to do making multiple moves in one race at 6 furlongs off of a layoff. So she did look like a very smart and classy filly in the paddock that day, so I'm going to give her another shot, as does Javier.
And that's, so hey, you're in good company then. That's definitely something to respect. We did mention There Goes Bella having some speed, but it looks like perhaps her main foe speed-wise will be a horse that comes out of the same race as Katrina's Way, and that is Sweet Deal, who did show a lot of speed last time getting to the fast main track, and she'll get just a little bit of class relief in here, one of 2 for trainer David Fox.
Let's get to the nightcap. Race 12, 7.5 furlongs on the turf for this maiden special weight. We'll get to my top selection in a second, but you land on the 6th, Relentless Miss for Chad Brown, and it's funny how things happen. Yesterday, case in point, a wide open turf race, and go figure, Chad Brown wins in a photo finish.
In the tightest of photos. That was an impressive finish from a first-time starter for Chad Brown. And he's got another first-time starter in here. And Chad Brown, first-time starters on the turf and maiden special weight. He wins 22% of the time, and his ROI is 250. And this one does have a pretty extensive work tab. Of course, that's a bit of a question mark, but I think his filly yesterday had kind of the same type of thing, which did give me a little bit more confidence putting this one on top. And her last 2 works on the turf at Palm Meadows look very strong. She's beautifully bred by Candy Ride. The dam was a multiple graded stakes winner as well.
I think the horse yesterday was a gelding, because I remember paying attention to that, because so I have this like weird angle for Chad Brown with his first time turf starters. If they like start at the maiden claiming level as a gelding, I kind of go against them, but the horse clearly won at the maiden special weight level yesterday. But the 3 Hello Dearie, I'm just absolutely in love with this pedigree for trainer Barkley Tagg, and he doesn't really pop with first-time starters on the turf. He's only 3 for 31, but I really like the pedigree, and I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to bet a 12-to-1 shot here. She is by Giants Causeway. She's at a bit of Whimsy, who was a grade 1 winner on the turf, multiple graded stakes winner on the turf. I believe she won the Sands Point, the Miss Revere, just all class, and she's been an excellent producer as well. Her other 2 foals are a grade 1 place and a graded stakes winner as well. So she's been a great filly, a great mare, and a great brood mare too. So I took a shot with this filly, as she is by Giants Causeway too.
And she does come off of a very sharp work on the Palm Meadows turf course, 4 furlongs and 47 flat. So she could be ready to fire at first asking. This is a pretty wide open maiden special weight to cap things off today.
All right, that's 12 races on tap. Don't miss it. We start things at noon. We do have that Rainbow 6 carryover, over $90,000 that starts in race 7. We're going to take a quick break, and Pete Arlo will be up next with those scratches and changes. Good luck.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great.